Good afternoon and welcome to the webinar for Opportunity Fund 2015 about letters of recommendation. My name is Carrie O'Brien and I am the Educational Advisor at Fulbright Columbia. I am also Education USA Advisor for some of the grantees located here in Bogota. So today we're going to talk specifically about letters of recommendation, how to ask for a letter of recommendation, who to ask for a letter of recommendation, and what kind of components should be included in those letters. A good recommendation letter should include how long the writer has known you and in what capacity, be written in an academic manner, provide concrete examples of your ability to succeed in a U.S. study program, and not talk too much about your personal background and character, but rather your professional and academic character. How is your ability to succeed academically in the U.S.? Regarding how long the writer has known you, I highly recommend that you ask someone who has known you at least one academic year. This could be a professor, this could be a research advisor, this could be a counselor at your school, someone who has known you for at least one academic year. Who should write your recommendation letter? This should be someone who knows you well, so who could really provide details about your previous experience academically and why you would be a good candidate for admission to a university in the United States. Someone who has been your teacher in a humanities area. If you're applying to undergraduate programs in the US, it's important to have someone who's taught you in the humanities and someone who has taught you in a math or science area. So that's specifically for those of you who are applying to undergraduate programs. If you're applying to a graduate program, it's very important that your recommender has a graduate degree, preferably in your desired area of study. That is ideal, that this person is already a professional and an academic in that particular area where you want to study at the graduate level. This should be a person who has worked with you closely as a professor or a supervisor, whether it was conducting research, an internship, writing your thesis, editing your thesis. This person should know you well enough to write quite a bit of information about you and your previous experience. Make sure that this person is not a family member or a friend. I'm sure you have a lot of family members and friends who would love to write a letter of recommendation and explain how great you are. However, this will reflect poorly on you as a candidate applying to a U.S. study program. It's very important that these letters are written by academic professors and that they are written very formally, very professionally. There should not be an informal letter from your uncle or your cousin or your best friend. This should come from a professor. How to ask for your letters of recommendation. First, it's very important that you express your gratitude and you thank them for taking the time to write your letter. Explain that you understand it takes a lot of time to write a good quality letter and you really appreciate and value the time that they're going to spend writing you a recommendation. You should also explain to them the context and remind them what courses you took, when you worked with them, what year was it? Was it the most recent academic year? Was it 2 years ago? Was it algebra or was it an English class? Remind them because I'm sure they have worked with many, many, many students and it always helps to remind them when they were your teacher and what course you took with them. You should also explain what experiences or achievements you would like them to highlight in the letter of recommendation. So remind them if you got the highest score in their class, remind them that you were the top student in their class that particular year and ask them to mention it in the letter. You could also provide your transcript and a CV that includes your honors and awards that you're proud of. So it should have a very clear, concise list of your honors and awards that could remind your teacher of all of the great things that you have accomplished over the past years. And they could borrow from your CV or your transcript and mention all of your achievements from those documents. You could also provide them with any admissions essays you've started to work on, even just a brief paragraph that explains why you want to study in the United States and what your academic goals are, what your goals are for when you finish your academic studies in the US, so that they really understand the context of why you are applying to a program to study in the United States. Of course, you should provide them with details about the format of how to write the recommendation and the due date. So this means explain to them how the online platform is going to work, or if it's a paper-based recommendation, make sure you understand the rules and the format for the letters of recommendation so that you can explain to your recommenders exactly how they should go about submitting them. And the due date is very important. So make sure that you give them plenty of time to write a good quality letter and submit their letter on time before the due date. You should orient them well, provide them with lots of suggestions and ideas and reminders of how excellent you are as a student, but never write the letter yourself. If someone asks you, oh, hey, I'm very busy, I don't have the time, could you please just write a draft and I'll sign my name at the bottom? Please explain to them that this will be very obvious to admissions committees in the US, and this will reflect poorly on you as a candidate, and you'll be less likely to be admitted. So if anyone asks you to write the letter, please decline and ask them to write it themselves. You could provide them with tips and recommendations and online resources about how to write a good letter, but never write the letter yourself. This should come directly from your recommender. When to ask? Well, now you should start speaking with your Education USA advisor in the next couple of weeks. Provide a list of 3 recommenders who you are considering reaching out to, and see what your Education USA advisor thinks about those choices, and if they have any recommendations, if they think maybe you should ask someone else. And as soon as possible, as soon as you've had your advising session with your Education USA advisor, it's a good idea to start contacting those people and see if they are willing to write a recommendation for you. It's never too early to get started with that. So for undergraduate applications, most universities that use the Common Application platform ask for 2 teacher evaluation forms that come with evaluation letters, plus 1 Common Application school report form, which would come from a counselor or a school official from your high school, from your secondary school. So that would be a total of 3 recommendation forms, and 2 of them being from teachers that you had, and 1 of them being from either a counselor or a school official. And the Common Application requires that your recommenders choose to submit either entirely online or entirely offline, which means paper-based. So they cannot, for example, fill out the form paper-based and mail it in and then write the letter online. They have to do both online or both paper-based and send it by mail. I'm providing a link here, which is appsupport.commonapp.org, which you can check out for a lot of helpful frequently asked questions with responses in regards to the whole process of the Common Application, which of course includes identifying your recommenders. There are plenty of resources for your recommenders as well, so don't hesitate to take advantage of those sort of websites that provide answers to frequently asked questions. For graduate applications, you should definitely check the requirements for each particular university program that you are applying to. Typically, 3 letters of recommendation are required for graduate level applications, but double check and make sure you have an Excel sheet with all of the required documents for each university that you're applying to. I wanted to share with you a bad example of a letter of recommendation so that you are aware of what a bad recommendation letter looks like, and maybe you could speak with your recommenders about how to avoid writing a bad letter of recommendation. So really quickly, I'll just read down this example. It says, "Dear Admissions Committee, it is my pleasure to write on behalf of lethargic student who has applied for admission at XY University. I am Lethargic's advisor and have known her for nearly 4 years, since she was a freshman. In fall, Lethargic will be a senior. She has had a variety of courses in psychological development, clinical psychology, and research methods that will aid her progress as a social work student. She has performed very well in her coursework, as evidenced by her 2.94 GPA. I've been impressed with Lethargic because she is a very hard worker, intelligent, and compassionate. In closing, I recommend Lethargic student for admission to XY University. She's bright, motivated, and has strength of character. If you would like to learn more about Lethargic, please feel free to contact me at or email me at sincerely professor." Okay, so maybe when you're hearing me read this and you're looking at this example, you think, well, that's not so bad. They said positive things about this student. She had a good GPA, she took different courses, but let's take a look at what was wrong with the letter. So there weren't too many details. Sure, it spoke positively of this candidate, but it didn't give solid evidence or examples of moments when this candidate succeeded academically, obstacles that she overcame. It was very general, a little bit too general, not specific enough. So make sure that when you have someone writing your recommendation letter, ask them to be specific in their writing. Ask them to provide details of why you are an outstanding student and why you deserve to be admitted to a U.S. university, not just, they were a great student, the end, sincerely, professor. No, they need to provide more details than just that. I'm passing along some additional resources. For undergraduate candidates, you could look at the Common Application blog and even send this link to your potential recommenders. This is a blog entry that describes how to write a strong letter of recommendation. So you could send that to your recommenders and suggest that they read it if they're looking for any ideas of how to write a good quality letter of recommendation. For graduate candidates, there's about.com. This link is gradschool.about.com, and it's all about how to ask for a recommendation letter. And there are two more resources, one at the University of California at Berkeley, and one at the Derek Bach Center for Teacher and Learning at Harvard. So you could feel free to hit pause on this video and copy down these links and check out these links in order to help you ask for a high quality letter of recommendation. Feel free to share them with your potential recommenders as well. And finally, the next steps in this process are simply to make a list of 3 possible recommenders. Who comes to mind first when you think about, okay, I need to select 3 people to write my recommendation? So who would those people be? Write them down, write, what academic area they come from, when did they teach you, what subject did they teach, or is it a guidance counselor from secondary school? Is it a school official, or was it a professor? So write down a list of who they are, and then discuss that list with your Education USA advisor. Once you have that meeting with your Education USA advisor and they approve your ideas, your 3 possible recommenders, then you can begin contacting your recommenders and asking them to do the favor of writing your recommendation letters. So that should be a formal email request 9 times out of 10. If you have the relationship where you can contact them easily via phone, that's okay too. Typically, I recommend that you write a personal email, you upload your CV, You upload your transcript if you have a copy, any documents or information that you can include in the email explaining to them why you're applying to a U.S. study program and how their recommendations could really help you would be a great idea. So I recommend contacting your recommenders via email. And I also recommend that you contact them a minimum of 4 weeks before any application deadlines so that they have at least 1 month to think about what they're going to write, fill out the paperwork, write the letter, and submit the letter. If you can contact them more than 4 weeks in advance, that's even better. I just recommend giving them plenty of time so that they can write a very good quality letter of recommendation on your behalf. And don't be shy to remind them if you haven't heard from them in a while and you notice they haven't uploaded anything to the online platforms, then please send them another email, follow up with them, remind them of the due date, and help them because I'm sure they're busy teaching their courses or whatever they're doing professionally in addition to writing your letter of recommendation. So those are the next steps for now. If you have any questions about this webinar or any of the other webinars that we've had so far, do not hesitate to ask your Education USA advisor. And I wish you luck in the process of deciding who will write your recommendation letters. Thank you for listening to this webinar and have a wonderful day.